and welcome to our July meeting. And as we received the meeting agenda items from Kelly, we have few items. We'll start with the staff updates, and after that, we'll go to the board updates and move on. And one of our key goal, and hopefully we can finalize it today, is 2026 goal. So hopefully we can revisit this again and we can have a good work plan. Yeah. So the floor is yours, Kelly. Yeah.
Okay, so we got a E-ramp grant, so that is to update the current resiliency plan. The RFP for that finally went out, so everything is due August 14th, and then we'll select the firm. So I'm excited about that process finally being in place. And then we also got a KDHE solid waste grant. It's a pretty small grant, 12,500. It's for adding some equipment to the compost facility and then doing some educational events for International Compost Awareness Week. So that's the first full week in May. And so in partnership with some local organizations and the compost facility, we'll do ICAUS, what it's called, and then also doing a pilot residential food waste collection program. So yeah, any questions about that?
How are you doing the residential food waste collection?
So that's a good question. I can tell you what we proposed. We haven't had the contract signed yet, so I haven't really been able to start digging into actually working on it. But the idea is that we'll partner with Nudge Compost and basically pay for Nudge to collect. We want to get a higher density area. It will be different than like the normal participation. If you're familiar with that program, you sign up for them, you pay a certain monthly fee, and you can either get your compost picked up or drop it off at a location. This will be a drop-off location with a smart bin, so it will record who is dropping that off. And then we'll work with Nudge to collect data, and then I will also collect data from participants. So they'll have to participate in a training in order to be in the program to get the code to get into the smart bin. We'll do a pre and post survey about their experience and knowledge. And then Nudge Compost will collect data on amounts and contamination. So we're looking for a area that is going to be a denser population where people are already passing by where we would put that bin, already utilizing that space. So we've talked with a couple of different places, but we'll start finalizing that once the contracts are signed. So.
You said International Compost Week, is that what you said?
International Compost Awareness Week.
Okay.
Yes. Okay. Ibrahim, any updates?
I don't have updates, but I have a reminder that for 2026, we have 3 more meetings left in this year. The last meeting for this SIP board will be on October. So hopefully for this meeting and for the upcoming 3 meetings, we can have a solid, achievable work plan for our 2026 goal. So that's why I hope today we can wrap this and end up with a plan. So this is just a friendly reminder. Yeah. So after that, we can move ahead now to the next item. Yeah. So Kelly, again, thank you for taking the time for preparing the meeting minutes and sharing that with us. So in June, we had a good presentation from Suzanne about the solid waste management and solid waste reduction in the city. It was a great presentation, great topic. And also the city updated us about Rob Foster proposal. So this were our 2 major items from the last meeting. And do you have any questions or comments to the meeting minutes that shared by Kelly?
I don't.
No.
Okay. Any motions?
A motion, we accept the minutes?
I'll second.
Thank you. So for those in favor of approving the meeting minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Anyone against that? Okay, so we are going to approve the meeting minutes for June. And we can go ahead now to the main discussion items for this meeting. So it's mainly our topic today is about land acknowledgement, and the floor is yours.
Thanks so much for your time. When I was reviewing the information of this organization, I didn't see a land acknowledgement, and I wonder if that's something that we should consider. I have a sample one that was used with librarians in Wichita the past few years, and I have an example from the Ulrich Museum of Art. So I was just going to read through that. And the information that I gathered for the libraries came from KU, K-State, and Wichita State. Welcome to Wichita, which is only possible through the diligent and dedicated efforts of the indigenous people who paved a path for us. The ancestral territory of several tribal nations includes the Wichita, Kansa, Kaw, Osage, and Shawnee, who were guardians of our land. We recognize other Native American tribes, Pawnee Band, Potawatomi Nation, Kickapoo, Sac and Fox Nation, Pawnee, Omaha, Delaware, Cherokee, Cheek, Choctaw, Oates, Ioways, and other forefathers, and appreciate their reverence and conservation of the land, water, and sky. So that's just a sample of one that's pretty concise, and I didn't know if that's something for discussion or for consideration.
A consideration for what?
Just to have posted perhaps on our website.
On the website?
Or posted when we have a meeting, if we're entertaining guests, visitors, if someone would be concerned, because we are a sustainable integration board, and we value land, air, and sky, land, water, and sky. I just thought that might be worth mentioning.
I have no objection to that. I guess I usually associate these sorts of terms with public institutions, including schools, libraries. I find it kind of interesting to think that an advisory group that's using a space that is, been provided to us by one of those institutions ought to regularly include such language in our publications, but I have no objection to it. It just seems a tad different to me. I'm used to.
That's good.
Yeah, like I said, I've got no objection to it. I'm just pointing out that this originated with people who were speaking as, I mean, to be really crude about it, who were speaking in a position of occupiers. This library is on a space. This school is on a space. This city hall is on a space, etc. Is everyone who makes use of those spaces also occupiers? I mean, I guess. So yeah, I've got no objection to it. Do you want to just stick it on the website and I don't know, always put it on our program or schedule or something like that? Or
Well, which part are we talking about? The first half or the part like what the
Like the
museum?
Oric. That one's a lot longer.
but it's longer.
Yeah,
I doubt the sentiment is any different between the two.
right.
Yeah.
And you could probably express the sentiment at much greater length as well as probably more succinctly.
Okay.
Can I interject? You may not be able to put it on the website. Because of
Probably
the
would
city.
be, yeah.
The city just has to approve everything, so just because we want something on the website doesn't mean it doesn't mean it won't, I'm just.
Right.
Can
I can very easily see somebody deciding, oh, wait, this violates the new state law
Yeah.
regarding DEI. Nice idea, though.
Yeah, for a while there, anytime I would go to meetings, that was how anybody would
yeah.
introduce themselves, but that's kind of not as much anymore. That I'm hearing that. Sierra Club is really big on that, but they're not doing it anymore.
It is,
But-
like all of these things, people find them important and they do it for a while until the people who find them important are doing other things. And
But it's something like the first piece, that could go on the city of Wichita's website. if they would. They may not, because I mean, that website's already dang busy. But that would be a good place for it, to me. That would include everything and everybody that's on their property, which is actually the few tribes that are right here, rather than recognizing all the other tribes. I mean, I know we have Wichita, I know we have Osage, because my land is from the Osage.
Can that statement be put on at the end of like, the PowerPoints that says the Wichita Sustainability Integration Board? Would that be considered?
It just has to fit the guidelines and I'm not, I can't answer that.
Okay.
I say we go with the language of the first one, says it's shorter. And besides, that doesn't make any specific reference to a particular institution, whereas the second one does specifically talk about the old museum. I say, we cut and paste that and see if anybody shoots it down. And if it gets shot down, then we know it's going to get shot down. We don't know if it's going to get shot down until we try to, ask if it's going to get shot down.
Yeah. Okay.
Does Kelly get to go ask if it gets chopped down?
Or can you just put it up there and have
Go
them
for
look at it later and go, get it out there?
I definitely cannot do that.
No, can't do that. Okay.
And Kelly, when you convey that to the city, if you can educate us, what is the legal criteria for posting stuff on the SAB website? And like from my previous experience, we like working with different organizations, we cannot post something on the social media or other platforms till we have legal review and approval. So that's why this is what I know. We cannot, even as a board member, yes, we can make a recommendation for this to be go to the city for legal review. So this is all what we have today, right? Yeah, and I agree with Russell and the rest of the board members. The first paragraph might be the good message to be conveyed to the city, other than the second one.
Okay, we can find out.
Yeah.
And if it's a no, then that's the way it'll be.
Yeah, I can ask. Are we done with this one? Sorry, I should have asked, I guess.
Do you have any people from the public here? I cannot see from my screen.
Yes,
Okay,
we do. We have 2 members.
are there any questions from the public to this point?
Not for mine.
Okay.
Okay, this second thing.
Oh, thank you. I'll just pass this around. The professors from the Botanica Gardens, Dr. Lynette Zimmerman and Dr. Ellen Johnson Mosley had a public presentation about 6-8 weeks ago. And it's about the water journey at Botanica. And I was curious if you're interested in perhaps having them as guest speakers at one of our meetings, just to share what they're doing with the gray water, the repurposed water, what they're doing and how things are turning wastewater into a resource. And part of their water conservation might dovetail into some of the programs that we have as a sustainability board. They're also looking at environmental leadership. And of course, they're looking at more educational outreach programs and an education center on their property. So it's the information is there, it's on the website. And they wouldn't have to give us the entire PowerPoint or all the information, but it might be a good time for some questions and answers. Or if you haven't been to that site to see the water purification system, then it might be interesting for us to take a little field trip there at some point.
This is fascinating. Both what they're trying to do and also just the level of professionalism that they're, presenting
It's
it with. I mean, this is, they're like,
Yeah, they
okay,
have-
so this is, the it's gonna be an additional tourist draw to Botanica. It's gonna provide civic education opportunities to Botanica. It's obviously gonna be saving this water. They've got a breakdown of, their fundraising goals. Have they begun this campaign already?
I think it starts very soon.
Okay. Yeah, that's nice. I'd love to hear from, some of the people involved in designing it. I think that'd be fascinating.
Yeah, keep in mind that we have 3 months.
That's also true. I mean, it's not like it's not like they would need our approval for anything, and it's
No.
probably, I mean, they've obviously already worked out how they're gonna move this forward, so it's not like, you know,
It would just be nice if we could have some of their talking points, so we would be aware on how to facilitate a conversation with Joe Public, or how to promote what they're doing, because they do have some SMART goals, and like you mentioned, they've got a plan, they've got stewardship, they're looking at community connections.
Yeah, Carmen, I was planning to meet you in person in this meeting, but something happened to
Yeah.
get on. But do you know if they have any, like you mentioned, gray water project? Do you know if they have pilot plant, or already they have kind of part of the infrastructure, gray water treatment and reuse? Uh, do you know what is going on at this particular topic?
I can't speak precisely, but they've already had a connection with the City of Waters water treatment plant, using repurposing that water, not for human consumption, but their plants. And
Very
that part is in place. They want to extend it to more of the gardens, and maybe their process would be something a business or Parks and Rec or another organization could imitate.
Very good. Yeah, I'm looking forward to meeting them. Yeah.
This is great. What is your name again?
Carmaine.
Carmine.
Carmaine.
Thank you, Carmine.
Yes. So I don't know how full the next few meetings are, and I don't know their schedules. If you're interested in having them come for a few minutes to share a little bit about, or answer some questions.
And I wonder about setting a goal and seeing if we can get anything accomplished in 3 months. I mean, really,
Tangible.
something
Yes.
that'll take us to the next year at
Mhm.
least, because nothing's gonna happen in 3 months. But we need to spend most of our time working on that, I would think, for at least for now, until we figure out what we're gonna ask the city to do. So it maybe like in 27, depending on how this goes. Since
Yeah,
we're not meeting in November or December.
yeah. Let's see our goals first, as a priority, and if we have time, we can get back to Botanic and we can invite people. And Carmen, do you know if they have a solid waste program internally?
I know they compost. I'm not sure all of their waste projects at the
Okay.
town.
I don't either.
Does anyone? The
They
master,
compost?
yeah, they compost,
Pretty sure they do.
but I don't know about, they compost, but I don't know about the other waste process they have.
Okay. Yeah, thank you so much for conveying that to us and updating us about this interesting projects.
Thank you for your time.
This is a great idea.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I'm gonna stop sharing because I have to bring up my email to get a link, and I don't want that to be public.
That's fair.
What I didn't see in here, this wrote this publication or in their PowerPoint at Botanica was information about transportation, like public transportation. Obviously, they're going to welcome buses, groups of people from schools and senior homes and whatnot. But I didn't see specifically like water runoff from rain, or I didn't see specifically solar panels or certain tinted windows. I didn't see those kinds of architectural drawings. It was more
Yeah.
just the plants.
This is good.
Good, good.
Right. So Giuseppe, if I let you have the link, the meeting doesn't record it over, that's why I couldn't share it with you. Or let
Okay.
you just do it on your.
Oh, that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
So you want me to come up to your terminal?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Okay, all right. Can you guys see this?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay. Sit here.
You want me to sit here?
Yeah, you can sit there and have control, just don't mute. Don't mute it, which is what happened last time.
You mind if I use the keyboard? Just so it's easier for me to go back and forth.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. So we're in a browser, so I'm wondering if I can go full screen.
Can you put in the presentation mode or enlarge it?
Well, we're on a web page. So there isn't really a
I guess I should've
presentation mode per se,
Oh, okay, okay.
because I had to use a public link because I couldn't broadcast from my laptop. But let's see if I remember my window command. Oh, okay, that was not what I wanted. Let's not go that crazy. Oh, okay. So we don't have,
Full screen.
we don't have a lot of options there. There should be a way to zoom in. Oh, okay. All right. Well, we'll deal with what we have.
It's good. Yeah.
How much time do I have?
I would say as quick as possible,
Yeah.
but no more than 30 minutes.
Okay. Okay, that's fair. Hello, all. Hello to those online. Is it Ishmael and anyone else? I mean, Ibrahim and anyone else? Ibrahim.
Ibrahim.
And Dylan.
Yeah,
Dylan.
yeah, Dylan's
Yes.
on. We are online, yeah.
Okay, so I'm a local resident here in District 1. I moved to Wichita last year, brand new, and never thought I would live in Kansas, but here we are.
Oh,
My wife is teaching at WSU. I am fun employed. I have decided to transition my career arc. I kind of feel like I'm going to my fourth career and going into climate for what I want to be the rest of my life. I just went through an international climate fellowship with about 530 other fellows. It was all online because there's nobody from Kansas in the fellowship. But if I lived in other cities, there are people that cluster there. And I'm also in the process of finishing an electric coach training with Rewiring America. Anybody know about Rewiring America
Yes.
and the work they do?
Yeah.
What is your name?
Lori.
Lori.
Yeah.
Joseph Shepard said that I should meet you, Lori. You're a real barn burner. And he said, you and Lori should meet.
Okay, good.
We had coffee. So
All right.
I also have tried to apply to become on the board. And as you know, you're serving
District
District
one.
1.
I
I
know.
asked for Maggie's seat, and that's kind of become
go
a
to
stall
anybody.
point because District 6 doesn't have anybody, and I would love to be on the
Right.
board. In my previous life in North Carolina, I was on the community board for Blue Ridge Public Radio, the shirt I'm wearing. Did a lot of digital work with them in terms of helping them bridge the gap with the community. And that's relevant to my presentation. Kelly and I were talking about this, and I talked to Ibrahim last time after the meeting about one thing that I've learned is you can't just inundate people with facts and numbers. They just go deadpan, and it often the doom and gloom stories result in really turning people off, or a lot of times demotivating people's desire to engage because it feels so overwhelming. So being a climate storyteller and storytelling, I think, is such a golden key to the lock that we need to unlock the doorway to. So I wanted to talk about ways that we might be able to impact storytelling here in Wichita to conjure up curiosity, have people think about different types of solutions that can better their lives, but also be climate positive or environmentally positive and resilient. And so I have 3 examples to share. So 3 stories. Okay, that goes away good. So basically, sorry that the font's a little small, but I think local stories can really change how residents think. And I want to just point out 3 possible examples. These are not the only examples. I think we can open our minds to many, many examples, but this is just meant to give you some inspiration. Being persuasive, being memorable, and having something that's built for engagement. So the first is data centers that pay. We all know that data centers are cropping up everywhere, and the amount of money being thrown at them is pretty scary. I've heard rumor that there are NDAs, and you guys might know more about this than me, about in Sedgwick County.
Yeah.
If hyperscalers are coming, I think it's worth us thinking about ways to flip the switch on how data centers operate, what they do, and the benefits or the penalties to community. So what do I mean by that? In the data center pay model, and this is something I'm borrowing, this is not my idea, this is from Rewiring America. They have a national initiative on this. Basically, data centers pay, meaning that data centers fund distributed energy investments that create a measurable capacity on the grid, and in return, they receive credit for that capacity. So they have faster, more reliable power by trading off funding for local power offsets. And how do we offset power locally? Well, hyperscalers could actually meet 33% of their capacity if they just subsidized heat pumps to local residents. So imagine if Wichita had, they show a model of 21 million. There's a Kansas specific state website for Rewiring America. But on the residential heat side, let's just say it was 1/10 of our residents, 40,000 heat pumps being funded by the hyperscalers would offset all of that, a third of the capacity they're actually asking for, just with that alone. And these are national averages. But you can see the size, 109 gigawatts is a lot of energy. That's one way we can think about flipping the script. There's a whole treasure trove of resources on this, and I don't know if we have a Google group set up or an email list, but I'd be happy to follow this up by sending out some of these resources, because the Rewiring America has a very friendly, like, home efficiency energy website that provides a lot of different resources for homeowners. So this is where I wanted to zoom. I'm going to try to zoom in and see if it lets me. No, just smaller. Okay, well, let's see if I can control. All right. So I pulled the Kansas data for their affordability energy plan. And you can see on the data centers pay, requiring AI data centers to invest 406,000 households. That's basically the size of Wichita, but that would be for all of Kansas. So there would be some proportion to that. There are 5 other initiatives that they do. 4 of them are listed here in terms of non-pipeline alternatives, inclusive utility investment, which is a very interesting model, and then electrification with friendly rate design, which our state does not really provide.
No, they don't.
If Kansas invested in households as an energy solution, we would have almost 850,000 households that could afford the energy upgrades to lower their cost. When we say afford, wow, this mouse does not want to move. There we go. Go away, bubble. So we're talking about energy upgrades, and the value that's reflected is assuming certain soft costs. The total impact is not the sum of individual policy impacts. So there's more information on that website. I'm going to try to scroll back out. There we go. All right. So that's just one example. How can we tell stories about this? Because I think this is not even probably on the radar with our elected officials. I don't know if there's news articles.
Help me get some context here. So you're basically presenting here ways in which we can, visually and narratively present information that people will respond to so as to help them understand some of the possibilities that are out there. Is that correct?
That is absolutely the first part of, like, the seed, if you will. And then there's the watering and the nutrients, which really comes with other apparatus around that storytelling piece.
When you say other apparatus,
Yeah.
do you mean like buy-in from elected leaders, coalition building so as to, win elections or persuade people on the state or the local level or the county level to change their votes. I mean, I'm trying to understand how you see this fitting into an overall argument about the need for better storytelling. Because like when you present data centers pay, I mean, absent any other context, I would imagine somebody looking at that and thinking, oh, wait, so is that the law? Is that going to happen? And then you say, well, no, actually, it's not. We're trying to convince people that this is a way in which you could get to certain end goals in a way that really, as you say, makes households part of the energy solution.
Mhm.
So how does this fit in to, what storytelling is supposed to accomplish?
Wait, sorry, what is your name?
My name is Russell Fox.
Russell.
Yeah.
So I appreciate the question. I think what I'm hearing is your desire to kind of really understand, like, where are we going with this? What's the destination? And like, what are the steps that are actually going to be tactical to what I'm presenting? I'm really into just the first part of the first topic, and there's more. I didn't come here to present all the solutions.
Right.
What I came here to do was spark some ideas about things that we can start to incorporate. I had a conversation with you, Ibrahim, about a LinkedIn page for the Sustainability Integration Board, because I think starting to share content as a knowledge center and as a place of a resource to educate residents, I think brings us credibility as a board. It also gives us an opportunity to interact with residents and maybe collaborate with the city of Wichita in certain aspects, and maybe collaborate with, I think the botanical gardens and what they're doing could be another story told. The next story is all about wind energy and the fact that the city of Wichita powers millions of dollars of wind energy every year in public facilities that's saving taxpayers money. So these are ideas to start thinking about. And the third story shows you direct action through storytelling. So I kind of want to, if you let me finish.
No, go right ahead. I was just.
But I appreciate your curiosity.
Well, you should go on. Please continue with your presentation.
So the first one, I mean, when I say data centers pay, that's not how I would write a story and present it to the public. This was designed for you guys as the audience. Just so we're clear, this is not something I would go to the public with and present it in the same way. I really try to tailor this to us. Because everybody here, I think, has an elevated learning curve and understanding, and all of you have more probably community experience that's deeper than mine here, because I'm only a year in.
Yeah.
So,
And as far as data centers, right now we're in a moratorium. The county commission is who you have to talk to about this.
Kansas Commission, County Commission,
Sedgwick County Commission.
the Sedgwick County Commission.
They are now making a decision on what they're going to do about data centers. The state of Kansas also, at least the Democratic candidates for governor are saying that they want to work on this as well.
Right.
So the state could do something, or the county can do something. Right now, counties are in charge of these kind of things.
Right.
So
That
they're the
I
ones you have
saw
to convince.
Okay.
The people, well, and then you have to
Well, and
convince everybody else.
It's not who I have to convince, it's who we as a collective have to figure out how to convince, right? Because if we're gonna have to do it as when some united front, bigger than just me, bigger than just this room. But from a discussion standpoint, reframing that hyperscalers demand as a chance to fund Wichita homes, I think would be a concept that most people haven't thought about as locally. And putting a local face on who these households are and how many people would actually be benefited from heat pumps. I live in a new development, brand new development, really airtight. And guess what? It's all gas heating, which drives me up the wall that we're doing methane when heat pumps, in terms of cost parity and in terms of pollution, are far better. So that's one version. The next I really like, because this comes from local resources and from something Kelly educated me on, the power of wind. So how is clean energy from wind already working for Wichita? Do you guys know that this story started with a little dashboard that Kelly shared with me, that I took that information, I was like, wow, okay, we're doing how much in wind? How many facilities? So that city dashboard of 4.6 million saved, 690 million kilowatts of clean energy are being produced through the wind program. And that's only from 2021. And I thought, okay, here's one way we can storytell. Let's take something like that. Let's make it more digestible into an infographic. Now this infographic I created can be much larger, can be like poster size. But imagine if we talk about the city of Wichita as being, instead of the air capital, the power of wind and the renewable wind capital. We're saving a tremendous amount of money from taxpayer dollars. And these are the different equivalents of what that kind of power generation looks like. So it's a little bit more tangible. We're saving 226,000 tons in recycled waste, or the equivalent of 10 million trees that are planted and mature for 10 years of carbon sequestration. Or a car that's driven around the earth. You can't even read it, but it goes around the earth, was it 32,000 times? Because the earth is 55,000 times around the earth. The average automobile today, gas powered car. So how many Wichitonians know about this? Even know that we're doing this, that the city's instituted this program. And I learned through Kelly that it's not just us, it's the Sedgwick County Zoo, it's the exploration place, I think. You said Cargill, you know, and it's like, well, who else could be part of this program? What other corporate partners could be part of this? Could we talk to the Kansas Leadership Center? Could we talk to some of the Merit Trust Bank or others downtown in getting into a wind power program? And also, why isn't it available to residents? I went on my Evergy website and I can't even choose renewable energy anymore.
I can.
So,
I had that before, but
It might be 3 years into it now.
yeah.
yeah, but see, they may still.
And I'm a
they might-
renter. I don't know if renting matters versus
Oh.
ownership, but
Maybe.
that's one of those things that this kind of a story can. And so how can we extend this into more storytelling? I thought, well, maybe we could talk to and interview somebody at Evergy, or we could
We
talk
have to know
to
somebody.
people in city government who
We
might
have
know
somebody.
who instituted the program.
We have somebody here on the board from FJ.
Tammy Rhea used to be on our
Okay.
board. She was trying to control what we did to not make sure that we didn't get rid of, you know, her
Her type of
energy
energy.
stuff, right? Yeah.
I also thought
But
of
Tammy Rhea is actually the PR person. Tammy
Tammy.
Rhea, Ray, I'm not sure.
I'll have to
Tammy
get
Ray.
this from you after.
Yeah, yeah.
I thought of some ideas that just to spark, you know, we could be investigating this with Evergy and the city officials around where does this program come from, and maybe we can find out which wind farms are actually pulling the power in this program, because it brings a real life community and the fact that rural farms are helping power Wichita, which I think is a really interesting story to tell. We could take it further. We could write up a piece. I'm happy to write a letter to the editor, to KMUW or KLC Journal, or you guys have ideas about other local media that we could be talking to about this. But if this gets out there, or if we post this image on our LinkedIn, I think we're starting to get some buzz about things that people aren't aware of that are already happening. So this doesn't require any finger lifting to convince politicians it's already happening. We just need to do the work to get the story out there. The third story is something that's very relevant that's going on in the country. Some of you may be aware of what's also known as balcony solar. Plug-in solar is huge right now in the States, and there's a huge wave of interest. So this is a story about how one resident moved a council person in their district. So plug-in solar, anybody not familiar with plug-in solar and it's what it does and how it functions?
I'm not sure about plug-in.
What's that?
I don't,
Balcony solar?
yeah, I don't know necessarily.
Oh, you weren't there when I talked to the legislators about it.
No,
And you're not as familiar?
I'm familiar with that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of concern about safety standards. It has to be UL certified. There's a certain certification code, just like any electric appliance, like your coffee maker, your toaster. But what's really interesting about this program and this legislation is that the states you're seeing right now, this is a cost graph. This is coming from Rewiring America as well. The average savings, so Kansas is right there in the middle, $250 to $280 in annual savings, which this is off of kind of some metrics that are averages, of course, state by state. And let me see if I show it. Okay, I don't show the map. There's a map out there. I'll show you the resources after, where we have 9 states, I think, that have passed the law, and there's 20 states in total that have either passed it or are considering legislation. Kansas is not one.
No.
Plug-in solar is basically, right now, if we look at everybody who has a house, everybody who has a house in the United States, single-owned occupant houses got solar, I think it would be between 28 and 32% of residents in the United States. It's not that much. The ceiling isn't very high because a lot of people live in condos, multi-use dwellings, multi-family dwellings, or they're renters. And so giving renters some say over power savings and their energy costs, I think, is one of the huge benefits of this kind of a program. You plug it into an outlet. It has to be, I think, GFCI certified kind of an outlet because it would be an outdoor outlet. And these panels can range from, I've seen as low as $400 up to as high as, a couple of thousand. They're not that big, so they don't feed energy back into the grid. So there's no permitting process. There's no handshakes with utility companies. Evergy won't even notice, except that your demand will go down, just like demand response thermostats or air conditioners, or when you time your EV, when it's going to charge. But it offsets a lot of energy and pays for itself. So how can we storytell to get more of this kind of a program open here in the state? So here's an advocacy example. Brett from Ward 6, he's the Ward 6 president in his district. He started writing to his council person. Now he got involved, he started forming a relationship with his council person. And this is just a couple of emails, and he shared this in a presentation, so I'm not sharing anything confidential, but he just wrote to Alan, his council person, talking about this trend, thinking that Alan may have already known about this. Turns out the council person had no idea about plug-in solar. So part of this is educating our constituents and our local officials. Would you be willing to support regulations in DC that would allow residents to get these kinds of panels? Many exchanges later, Charles acknowledges it, says he saw the article. He wrote again, and he wrote a call to action. Could you let me know your position on this issue? Turns out he wrote some more. They had more back and forth. And then he wrote, did you know that in Europe, these kinds of solar panels cost about 60 cents a watt compared to $3.20 that we pay for rooftop solar here? So he keeps peppering him with information and facts. And BrightSaver is a great resource for a lot of information that we could be sharing with our council people. So he finally writes back and says, I'll be introducing soon from our research a plug-in option within the bill. He's literally corresponding and saying he's going to incorporate it into his bill. So this is kind of a success story. This is recent. This is as of March and April of this year that this is happening in DC, which is a fairly progressive, people would think, forward-thinking area. But even in DC, it really took some convincing. So I've got some resources here, but I think if we start thinking about storytelling with our council people, with our mayor, with our city manager, I'm sure you're on board.
State reps is what we need to.
So,
this is kind of a state thing rather than a
it
local
is a
thing.
state thing, but I'm wondering if it can also be done. I asked this question the other day. Could it be done at a county level? Could they have a declaration where they allow plug-in solar panels to be operated in a county, in a muni, rather than at the state? And I'm still waiting for the answer because DC is technically not a state either, and they were able to get this done.
Well, part of the issue will come from here is people saving energy Evergy doesn't like because they want to be paid for it.
Sure.
So they will fight it.
But
That's
Evergy also pays for demand response for offsetting with VPPs, like virtual power plants. During peak demand, utility companies, Evergy included, pay to offset demand. They borrow it from companies like Voltus that supply it through the utility commissions.
But they decide how much solar you can put on your roof.
Yes.
They limit what you can produce.
Right, because you're feeding energy back into the grid.
They don't like that because then they have to give you money back.
Well, there's an interconnection issue there, right? They say that it requires more bandwidth in their shielding of their wires, and that it requires more transformers, and it requires more robust equipment. But the plug-in solar doesn't require that because it doesn't feed any energy back into the grid. So all we're doing, it'd be like, I mean, I got paid for my thermostat. Evergy gave me $100 rebate on my
Smart thermostat.
Nest thermostat.
Yeah.
All the thermostat's doing, and there's a feature that says allow the Nest thermostat to kind of drift into its own slight settings different from my schedule based on demand. Well, that's Evergy being able to pull a big lever and say we want thousands of households to raise their air conditioning temp by 1 degree between 4 and 8 p.m. because that's peak.
Right.
Well, and Evergy is not the end all be all here because it really isn't about Evergy approving this. It's about, I realize that they're a lobbyist and they're a wrangler and they have a lot of power. But it's also about people realizing how accessible and easy this is. Way easier than solar, like real rooftop solar. So I want to come from a place of not yet instead of we can't.
One of the things, because I'm on this Kansas Sierra Club, and one of the things that we are working on is this very thing right now. But we're looking at it as a state level.
Okay.
To make it legal everywhere in the state is a big step to make. We had a legislative forum here in Wichita, and I was shocked to see all the Republicans at that table. Normally, it's just all one party and that's it. And Republicans don't come because they don't want to hear questions, right? And they usually won't answer. But I said, has anybody ever heard of plug-in solar or balcony solar? John Carmichael, of course, raises his hand. You don't know John, but he's like the energy guy. And everybody else was like, no. What is, so I told them what it was. And I see some of the legislators writing things down while I'm talking, which I've never seen before. Right? And then I get an email from Nick Hoheisel. And I'm like, Nick, I know. Nick and I have kind of built a relationship, even though he's on that side of the aisle. And he said, I was really interested in that. I think I'm going to buy one and see what happens.
Yeah.
And I said, yeah, let me know. And then I emailed him again. And I said, well, hey, Nick, how's it going? And I still haven't heard anything
There's
back.
just so much that's happening.
That's what they did in Washington, D.C. Can I just add to what Lori said? They just did that in D.C. They actually brought in, some of it is about, you have to feel it, you have to see it, you have to kind of show them, show and tell. It's like kindergarten all over again, but showing them something that's capable, how it works. You can bring it into an office, you can set it up on a conference table to show people. It doesn't have to be plugged in for people to start to marvel and realize what's the potential with this. When we think about resiliency, when we think about being climate ready for these, outages, heat domes can create power surges and outages too, just like thunderstorms and hail can. And the fact that cooling centers, we've got all these different things, everything needs energy these days. And the data center, the public opinion on data centers is tanked on both sides. As far as like a populist opinion, people hate them. They don't want them anywhere near there where they live. So this is also recognizing that there's so much energy to demand. So like maybe we could write an op-ed or a letter to the editor about this. Maybe we could do what he did. And if you guys don't mind entertaining this, this is his footage. He went in front of his city council and in 3 minutes, he raised the whole point about why DC needs plug-in solar.
Is there audio for this video? Is there any video, audio for this video? I cannot hear anything from this video.
You can't hear it. You can't
Oh,
hear
I have
it.
to share the actual screen of.
Oh, shoot.
Okay.
Share some.
my-
It says share some
Sure.
there.
Sorry, Ibrahim. Full testimony, that's it. Are you able to see it, Ibrahim?
I can see it, but I cannot hear it. That's why I asked it in the chat box. Is there audio? But never mind. You know, you can share the link with me later. You know, but keep going, guys, with whatever you heard so far.
Okay. Okay. Can you hear us, Ibrahim?
Yes, I can hear you. Thank you.
So that concludes my presentation. I think if we start to really think about how we can storytell, ways that we can start to suss out interesting elements in any one of these topics or others that we can start to find ways to both influence and storytell locally with constituents, but also share with our residents and share publicly to publicize some of these benefits. I think it's a story that people will gravitate towards and that has value.
So, Mr. Yosebi, you did a great job. I believe taking the time and the effort to prepare these slides with all this information is really helpful, you know. And revisiting your points about the data centers and heat pumps. Heat pumps, win-win situation for data centers and for the cities. You cool the data centers and at the same time you recover energy. And for the wind energy, you mentioned this is coming, the information you have it in your bar graphs and chart graphs is coming from the dashboard of the city. Is this right?
You're asking about where the wind power is coming from?
Sorry, the wind power, yes.
So it's a, and you might be able to speak to this more than me, but it's a contract that the city of Wichita has with Evergy, and there's some number of, I know that Wichita has lots of real estate they own, but there's some number of buildings that are under this contract. So the city's been using city property that's Evergy Electrical funded through wind at around, I think they're averaging around 98% for the last 5 years. So it's an energy contract. And if they go above the kilowatt hours that are covered by wind, they pay a premium, I believe, over that flat fixed rate, but it's still sourced from wind. Is that true?
Yeah, it's a power purchase agreement.
Okay.
So we buy a certain amount at a certain rate, but if we go over that, we pay more. If we go under it, we still pay for what we purchase.
So the question I have here right now, this is like very, very important numbers for the public to know. So this Evergy / city wind energy, is this like accessible by the public? Like if I Google this wind of energy of city of Wichita, will I find this information?
Yes.
Okay.
And if you want to see some of the wind power, I can take you out there, Ibrahim.
Yeah, I need to make sure this like something accessible to the public and residents of
Well, I
Wichita.
mean, but part of the part of, the whole point is that this information isn't actually available in, a visual scheme like this.
Correct.
You'd have to dig through all sorts of different
Yeah.
websites. You'd have to read through all sorts of different reports.
Exactly.
What you're talking about here is it's great. It's absolutely necessary. It's a skill that we need to develop, or working with people like yourself who have this skill so that we can do these sorts of things more. I don't think that storytelling for sustainability is always going to be, as direct a line as maybe we might hope it to. I mean, particularly your first example involving data centers. I mean, as you pointed out, the whole discourse about data centers has tanked on both sides in so many ways. There's so much misinformation, there's so much suspicion. I don't really know, without some very, very heavy political lifting, you can actually find a narrative that can cut through the noise, because I'm not even clear where we're going through the noise with data centers. But when it comes to things like renewable energy, when it comes to things like wind and solar, when it comes to plug-in solar, I mean, this is the sort of stuff where, as you point out, we're already doing it. Other states are doing it. People are reading about it. People are reading about plug-in solar. They're reading about Chinese EVs. They are hearing these things. And the fact that the technology is advancing so quickly in so many ways, that you have powerful entities like Evergy who, maybe they want to maintain their control over an industry, but they also want to save money and increase profits while doing so. So they're investing in this stuff already. And so, yeah, finding better ways to communicate to people about this stuff that is actually happening, that's actually available, that can actually be conceived. The fact that all of this data is out there on the city's website, spread across who knows how many websites, buried in who knows how many reports. I mean, this is great. This is really great stuff. I mean, and I appreciate you, giving us of an example of what hopefully will be many things that we could, working with you or others, generate in the future to help increase that storytelling capacity. Um, Certainly, at least when it comes to renewable energy, I don't see any downside to it at all.
Thank you.
I totally agree. This is great work, and I do recommend something like this slide, for example, the power of wind. This might be conveyed by Kelly to the city. If they are okay with that, we can, after the legal review and the approval, we can put it on the Sustainability Integration Board website, or maybe on the LinkedIn. So this should be the message, right? If everyone sees the numbers like that, see how much energy we can save, what is the synergy between different pillars of wind, solar, and as I mentioned before, like wind energy, solar energy, we can leverage them using something called like a flow batteries. We can store energy during the low demand, and when we have high demand, start to release the energy. So a lot of approach we may leverage behind energy storage with respect to the solar and the wind. So any questions to Gossip about that?
Sorry, was there a question there?
I'm asking if someone has any questions to you.
Do you design all this stuff yourself?
I designed this. A lot of these graphics are borrowed from the Rewiring America website and the report. I was just on a alumni call as an electric coach, so I got to be part of their program. But this is publicly available. They have a dedicated site for each state. So I have some user experience, design experience. So I do like to present visuals. I did this with research studies we did with listeners, because there was like 9 counties that our public BPR radio supposed to support, but it's very hard to be in the mountains with reception the way it is and really connect to 9 counties. You've got such a displaced demographic of people. Like, how do you tap into stories that matter to them? Do they even know about our programming? So there was a lot of listener surveying we need to do to just get the data to understand, like, how do people even listen and interact with BPR? So, but yeah, I do enjoy it.
It's great.
And I think we're living in a time where visuals, certainly video, but just visuals in general get a lot more attention than text. And so rather than trying to like change society, we've got to kind of like go with society, but lean in on that in ways that resonate with them. And locally too, like I would show Joseph some of these visualizations to explain to him why this matters and what the impact can be and how this can benefit constituents. There's some great visuals on heat pumps, for example, and how incredible energy saving they can be across a whole swath of weather conditions, from extreme cold to extreme heat.
I mean, I'm trying to think, I mean, should we try to make this? I mean, this is something that is really just, it's kind of like a wake up call. These are the sorts of things that we need to be doing, that everyone who cares about these issues needs to be doing in order to effectively, start planting the seeds, as you said, early on to, give us something to work with as we get involved in, conversation after conversation pertaining to all of these different things. I mean, we're scheduled to talk about our 2026 goals. I mean, I would imagine that maybe a good goal would be to simply say, let's work with the resources we have to try to, design some of these things, get them out, get them out on the website, find ways to get more proactive in sharing some of these things through social media, communicating with elected leaders, communicating with journalists. I mean,
Truthfully,
that's the whole goal, right?
this is what I had recommended, I think, all year. Not to the extent of saying storytelling, but storytelling gets people to listen more. But as I said, I've gone out and talked to several different groups about the Sustainability Integration Board, and they don't know about it. They get excited about some of the things they offer. And it's a matter of educating people what we're doing. Now, this is a step further, but I still think there is a place to validate who we are in the community, and as well as telling the stories.
I'm just imagining, Randy, when you came and spoke at District 5, you had some of these cool graphics.
Oh, yeah, no kidding. Next time I will, okay?
Yeah.
I mean, we could set up things like a playbook. So when we are out, if we're doing canvassing at a local city event or in front of our breakfast, Saturday morning breakfast within our district, we want to be able to present. We can build a playbook that kind of talks to a certain number of issues or stories that we care about that we think will resonate. Let's just pick a few, because I think it gets complicated if you try to do too much. And then, is there a Google group or an email distribution list for the board?
No,
It's kind of awkward.
it's a city board, so everything that is done within the board has to be basically available. So that's not an
Public.
option. Yeah.
It's not an option.
Yeah.
Okay. But we could privately as citizens just organize our own.
You can do whatever you want.
Unbeknownst-
That's private.
unbeknownst to you.
Citizens.
Right.
Yeah, do whatever you want.
So maybe after this meeting's concluded, maybe we could talk in the parking lot or go for coffee or figure out a way to congregate on that, because I could also see putting together, like, have you guys ever heard of the idea of a content calendar for campaigns? So
Sure.
if we say we're going to release on, and I'm including you in this dialogue, Ibrahim, I hope you can hear me. But if we include, like, we're gonna publish this infographic on the wind on the 17th of August. I'm just making it a date here. But if we say that, and we say, okay, well, we're all gonna repost it on the 18th through the 20th. We're all gonna comment on it, and we're also gonna go to KLC or KMUW and try to do some research and do a story on it, an expose. Going out to the wind farms that are involved, talking to Evergy and writing a journalistic piece, like that could be a campaign. And if everything is about, it's coming from the Sustainability Integration Board, and we're here as residents that care, that are invested, that want to share with you as Wichitonians and as Sedgwick County residents, how much sustainability is very here and now, very doable, very accessible, and the benefits. I mean, the direct action stuff, I think we can also do parallel to this, the stuff that Brett did, where he goes in front of his city council. I mean, I think I have all of his emails, I have all of the links. I could share all of this in a document with you all. Are you in which district?
2.
5.
You're in 1. I'm in 1. Russ, 5.
I'm in 5,
So
but I'm not part of the board.
that's okay. I'm not part of the board either.
Yeah.
So, and Kelly's in 1. So, I mean, if we had 3 or 4 districts covered where we were all kind of having relationships with our council people and peppering this in and having conversations, and then we show up at their district meetings, at their city community, what are they called?
Dabs.
Yeah,
District
district advisory boards. And maybe we show up at City Hall for one of the open comment periods and we start talking about why this matters so much. We can build some momentum, especially because it's really in vogue right now and it's all over the news. And all these other states are doing it. And really, in a way, Kansas is being left behind. Because look at Kansas, look at how much sun we have in Kansas.
We're the 8th leading producer of sun.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, potential, but we don't have solar. And we're fighting to do solar in Sedgwick County right now. August 5th, if you can come to the county commission meeting.
I would love to be there.
Okay,
Can
that'd be
we,
great.
can we organize offline about this?
Yeah.
I was supposed to meet you anyway, because Joseph was like, you gotta meet Lori.
Kelly, I would like to send you the League of Women Voters position on energy, and I would like you to distribute that to this group.
I think we can do that, yeah.
Well, I can't do it.
You could do it and we just
Well,
wouldn't tell Kelly.
yeah.
Could I distribute to you, some of the articles and resources on the plug-in solar? And then you can distribute it to this group?
We try to limit what is done, and I understand it makes it awkward, and we all know this makes it awkward. What is done via sending to the entire group,
Okay.
because that falls under a public meeting, and so has a different level of scrutiny, a different level of reporting, and we want to be transparent, and it's hard to be transparent when you have a 10 people long email chain.
Right.
Does that make sense?
It does.
So we try to really limit that just as a,
Okay.
Being public servants.
I'm learning. I think there's different ways we can navigate this. But yeah, so I'm over time. I would be happy to send my email and phone number. I also would like to, maybe we can coordinate an introduction, because it might mean more. If you know Tammy,
I do.
does she have a negative connotation about you?
Probably.
Okay, so then maybe we shouldn't do an introduction. Maybe I should just go in blind.
Yeah.
So what is our action item from this tele storytelling? So Kelly will take this wind energy infographic and to the city to see if this something can be posted on the SEP.
Is that a question for Kelly?
Yes, and the board too. What is our action item now? What should we move forward after?
If that's what y'all want to do, I can definitely ask.
Yeah, is this okay with the board? We can take
I
this
mean,
more?
certainly the wind one. The wind one was a great visual.
Give me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it did catch my attention. Yeah.
And we could
Do we have a
follow up with
website?
that with others that,
Well, I think the WIN is a good entry level. I don't think data centers is a very good entry level.
Right
But
now.
yeah, but to start out with the positive things that the city is doing for renewable wind energy. I think it's a good,
And I do think that's already listed
It
on our
is somewhere.
page,
I know
on the
I
sustainability page.
included that in my.
But it doesn't have any cool graphic or anything like that. It's
Mm.
just like a mention.
Do you think the gentleman that you said adjacent to,
Mhm.
who's involved in a lot of the energy work, do you think he would have enough background knowledge to how the program came to be and how it's devised, like where the energy assets are, or more involvement with the
Would be
energy?
energy.
Okay, guys, so let's move now to our 2026 goals. We
Okay.
have 15 minutes more.
You know, they
Uh,
don't close the library till 8. Technically, we can stay
So just
Oh,
start
really?
yelling
after they start yelling at us.
Yeah.
I don't know that. Okay, good to know.
Yeah.
So, as I mentioned, we have three
Thank you.
more.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. We have 3 more meetings left for this year, and we need to have like achievable goals, something we should deliver it within 2026. We kind of touched the solid waste management and about one of key goal for this year. So
Yeah.
I did share with Russell and Kelly about maybe like a sub goal behind that is mainly about a dashboard or something on the SIP where we can have tracking for all our activities about waste reduction, about the recycle rate, about uh, contamination rates, stuff like that, you know. Um, but it's like open discussion now, you know. And Lori, you mentioned something about your goal for the trash. Um, so how we can make like achievable goal in 2026 within this short period of time?
To me, I think we can get started on an achievable goal. But in 3 months, that's not much time when we only meet once a month and it's only an hour and a half.
What,
Oh.
I mean, you
Well-
wanted us to focus on something
Think of the link.
particular ways.
Yeah, if we can put together a plan to, and the city's already thinking about this, some of the council members are, to make it so that you don't have every single hauler on every single block. But that things get consolidated, so that there's one on each block, only one truck. Because there's so much cost savings for the city if that happens, so much cost savings. There are different pieces to it. One would be consolidating, so only one truck per area. Another part that could be included, and Susan didn't go into great detail about what some of the other cities she has helped accomplish. But I know that there are also across the country, when the city does the trash, they offer free bulky waste pickup.
Mhm.
Not every day, not every week, but
Right.
they will have it scheduled every month or every quarter or every other month or something. And the cost savings in doing that would be unbelievable. No more illegal dumping, practically. I mean, that would take care of a lot of that. The cost would come down for everybody. There would be way less emissions
Mhm.
in our air. And we do go over that limit occasionally. It's usually during the spring, Flint Hills burn. But that would help with our emission numbers because we do measure that. There's a lot of cost savings to the city to doing that. And we could, if the bulky waste was included, we wouldn't need neighborhood cleanups anymore.
So you're saying that there's already members of the city council that are talking about this. I
They're
mean,
open minded.
I've heard it talked about in the past. It runs up against the fact that, you know, people are unwilling to, you know, I mean, if you start coordinating things by block, you're basically telling homeowners, you're not gonna be able to contract with the person that you want.
Well, it would have to be a citywide program.
with. Exactly.
Right? And the city would have to say, figure out how they're gonna divvy that up. The city could take it back on again. And I know one council member is in favor of the city taking on the trash. But that's a few years out. because it would take
So
an
what's a
incredible amount
step
of
that we
money.
can contribute to that? What is the kind of information that we could
We need-
compile over the next 3
Yeah,
months
data.
that we could present to, our elected representatives as, people speaking from the advisory board saying, this is a step that we could take and we recommend that you guys study this step and vote on this step. What could we do? Do we have the ability to create like a map of the city and how you would break it down block by block, like say, here, try this? Because if it's just saying, here's what the savings would be, they already know what the savings would be.
But they're not thinking that way. They haven't been thinking that way. One council member that I talked to, you guys have taken my survey, I think.
Yeah.
Looking at the results, which I send out to, I can't send it to everybody, but I can send it out to you all individually. The results that I have so far, and there's like 250 people that have taken it. And the variety of pricing that people are paying quarterly varies from like $45 to $200.
Yeah.
That's outrageous.
Mm.
We have to have some sort of regulations on independent trash haulers. They are regulated. They have to get a license from the city and the county if they want to use the landfill. So they are already regulated in some way. But this would be an opportunity to put either them or a citywide. That would be an ultimate goal, but I don't know that that's achievable.
So I ask again.
'Cause that's a lot of
So
money.
what's the kind of thing that we could do? What's the kind of information or what's the kind of, action that you think could be presented as a step towards that? Because again, I feel like if it's, showing somebody a list of all the savings, I mean, do you really think they don't know it?
They don't think that way. They
Okay.
haven't thought that way, because this is something so foreign at this point. We used to have city-run trash,
Right.
but we heard when Susan was here that there were 32 haulers plus city-run trash.
Mhm.
I did not know that, but I knew the city used to do it because I know my mom told me that they used to do it. It was so far beyond me that I didn't remember it. Early 60s.
Yeah.
I was a little kid. So it would have to be a plan. And I don't think you can go step by step. You either have to say, yes, we're gonna do it, or no, we're not gonna do it. Right?
Who's we?
The city of Wichita
Okay.
and all of their residents. And the people who
And the
get,
trash haulers.
but no, okay.
They'll
So,
push back.
well, maybe there's only 8 of them. I mean, really?
Less, aren't they?
Huh?
Doesn't, Waste Connections now own?
Most of them.
Yeah,
Mhm. Yeah, but there's been like, you were on the bus with us?
I
were you?
did not.
You didn't get to go. Oh, Dylan and I were on the bus. And there's 3 or 4 new ones now
Okay.
that are trying to
Mm.
grab some of that away. Now they'll eventually fall to Waste Connections. They all do. Waste Management still exists because I see their truck occasionally.
I'm
They're
Waste Management
small.
customer.
Yeah, but they're not nearly as big as Waste Connections. And Waste Connections is this company and that company and that company and that company and that company. So conceivably, like in Derby, this is my favorite example from Susan. The city of Derby decided that they were going to use a single hauler. So they put out for bid. They just took all the bids from the different companies and they took the one that was going to give the best value for not only the city, but for the customers,
Mhm.
right? So they have a very low trash rate that they pay. And that also includes that bulky waste. And I don't remember if it was bi-monthly or quarterly. It also, for Derby, we're too big, I think, to ask this, but for Derby, they also pick up all the trash from the city for free. It's included in their contract. But they're the big boy. Another idea for Wichita is to let the biggest one, who's probably going to buy them all anyway, take contract with them so that they can do the entire city. Let each of the smaller haulers contract under them, and then they get this, the amount of money that you would save as a hauler from driving all over town every single week would be immense with the price of diesel, especially right now.
So
So they would be more apt to accept something like this.
So again, what's the goal?
Could
Should we plan on reaching out to a Waste Connections lawyer and saying, we think that we could make a pitch to the city that they just contract with you. Let's write up something and present it to the city. Is that a goal?
We could try that. If
Could
you've ever
I-
tried calling Waste Connections, it takes hours to get a
Could I
hold of anybody
possibly
else.
remind you guys of your role here a little bit? So if you go back and you look at the documents when this group was first made, at your bylaws, at your stated goal on your website, the number one goal is to advise city council.
Mhm.
Typically, these boards write letters to city council. They're showing up, they're having conversations with their representatives. They choose a topic and they take that to city council. Have you taken anything to city council in the last year? Not individually, as a board.
No, I don't think we ever have.
We have presented to the city council though.
What the,
Well,
Not
in
within,
terms of
not
what,
within the last year,
what you could do.
not within the last calendar year.
Making that connection.
Suggestion.
Okay.
Well, I'm not a board member.
I'm not the chair, but yeah.
Well, a suggestion on what you're saying, because Russell, you keep hitting at, like, what's the next step? What are we gonna do? Like, visually speaking, if you had colors of the zones of all the different haulers and how much color overlaps there are, and I could even see this as an animation where it shows how many different routes are overlapping other regions. You may have regions of Wichita that have 3 or 4 or 5 providers crossing over paths wise. So garbage trucks are noise pollution. Neighbors don't like seeing, 2 or 3 or 4 haulers going through the same block in a given
Exactly.
week. One is plenty. One is already enough.
Mhm.
People don't like hearing that. Mine, Waste Pro shows up around 8 AM, but Waste Connection shows up at 3 AM on Wednesdays, coming through, wreaking havoc, making all this noise.
Yep.
Another issue is all the waste that, is it Susan was saying?
With the
All
environment.
this illegal dumping, right? So illegal
Yeah.
dumping would be a big thing to help clean up and beautify Wichita, which I
Right.
think
Mhm.
resonates with residents, but also resonates with local council people and mayors about like making Wichita cleaner again. Detroit, I know my parents live there. It's tied into their water city. And so
Yes.
it's a built-in process. You don't even have the choice. And I think Susan was saying because it's detached, it's decoupled, that's an
Right.
issue.
Right.
So why couldn't we bring a little presentation, a little pitch to our city council as a group and say, here are all the benefits, here is the rationale, and also here's what Derby did, or here's what another
Oh, yeah,
adjacent
yeah.
city's done, and how they're benefiting from
Yeah.
that. Because I wasn't offered a smaller container, and we recycle and we compost. So
But
we
you're
should be getting,
supposed to be.
we should be getting a smaller container.
Yeah.
So they're not even complying
Yeah,
with the
I
thing
know.
that they're supposed to comply with.
They're not. Yeah.
So we could point out the holes in the process already today that show that this is somewhat broken and it's also very inefficient and it's noisy. And it's ugly.
I like the idea of providing some kind of animation along with it, so that along with the presentation, got some short thing to show everybody saying, this is what it looks like.
how easy is it to get that information from the haulers?
Their
They
routes.
will not. They will not. It would be impossible. But,
Yeah, that's a good
does the
point.
city have something like that? I think I've seen something like that, and maybe Susan has that.
Even by zip code,
Susan might
it's
have
a little bit more like,
But since it's free market, anybody can have anybody, and there's no documentation on it except the haulers that have that. So I'm not sure.
so the city has no knowledge of where these haulers go.
Why would they?
Nope.
They're independent.
Sorry for
haulers.
the interruption, guys.
What's
Can
that?
you mention, sorry for the interruption. Can you mention something about a letter from the SAP board to the city members? Is this what you are talking about? I saw the meeting minutes is the way we convey our message to the city.
We could get on the council agenda.
Yeah.
As a city board and
Yep.
speak to them.
Yeah.
But that would be us putting together what we wanted to say.
We need to go there and make sense.
Yeah.
Have our homework done.
Yes.
Have a pitch, have some materials, content, and some facts. I mean, we just rambled off all the benefits. I'm sure we could get some pictures and some evidence from people like Susan.
Well, yeah,
And
and I
yourself.
think that she would have a lot of what we might be looking for.
Yeah.
But I don't know that she can pinpoint where everybody goes to get there. I mean, you know.
I didn't realize
That's
with it that you made a good point, and then you're saying like it's kind of like free for all, so we don't really know. But we can even do a simulation of what this could look like, and nobody's gonna argue it because they don't know either.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
It's
like
kind
that
of like-
idea.
I mean, okay, if we just speak to our own neighborhoods, we could talk to, how many carriers do you have?
There's
All of
four.
them.
There's four
Four.
in my little.
So if we just, okay, so we just plotted a rough, like an Airbnb bubble, not where you live, but kind of you live in this bubble. And we said in that bubble, Lori has this. Randy.
Randy.
Carmine, Russell has this. Like, even just showing that is enough to articulate the idea of like how much of a shoestring ball of yarn mess this is.
All right, so let's.
Your attention, please. The library will close in 15 minutes. If you have books or other items to check out, staff are available near the self-check stations to assist. Please save all documents and complete all printing at this time. Thank you for visiting the Wichita Public Library.
That should be in the minutes.
Yeah.
So you said that it's possible that Susan has access to some of this
I will have to ask her.
information.
Yeah.
Let's see what we can get from her. Let's make a goal to try to put together a report that makes recommendations, and we'll get on the city council's agenda, before too much time goes by. I like the idea of designing some kind of graphic, particularly some kind of animation that might
Can
be
you
able to show
put
some.
something like that up at the?
I'm sure you
council?
can.
Not you?
Yeah.
I'm sure that if, as
Yeah.
part of your
Okay.
presentation, if you provide something to them
Well,
beforehand.
don't say me because I don't know how to do that kind of
I
stuff.
mean, we could provide them something, as long as they're willing to broadcast it, as long as they're willing to put it up.
Well, they have screens
Yeah.
inside and
Yeah.
then they would be able to see it on their personal screens.
We could also include it as a public link, like I did this presentation as a
Yeah.
public link
Oh,
now.
yeah. Oh, that's
I
true.
believe it will
Derby-
get back, sorry for the interruption. It will get back to the same point, if we have like a dashboard on the website of SAP, so everyone can get in and track all the progress we are doing as a city in terms of the trash management, waste reduction, all what shared with Susan before, everything can be translated into infographic, can be something as a dashboard. So all the residents and the leaders, they can get in, and this is my point, if this is a goal, we can work on that. We can get all these numbers like what we did today with the wind energy for Gozep. He came to us, he got all this public information, he reformatted the numbers and put it in an attractive way. Something like that can be updated, on the SAP board, but in terms of dashboard, and the residents and the leaders, they can get in and they track all this information. So I'm not sure is this like a goal, or do you like to have a goal in terms of recommendation, or maybe like insights about the city waste management? And I'm not sure about the communication between Susan and the city. They may have that information. I don't know. So, and again, like as Kelly mentioned, we are advisory board. We advise, and open opportunities and highlight it.
Thank you. That's very informative. I think a huge piece or a portion of this whole conversation should include the recycling component. If we don't get every aluminum can, every piece of cardboard, every glass container, then it doesn't matter. Because those things can be recycled right here in our state, in our community. And if we don't educate people on the importance of that with infographics or PSAs or whatever, I think we can have as few trucks as possible. I think some of the suburbs are the dirtiest suburbs in the state because you can go to Derby and Andover and Goddard to all these events and festivals, and they're not doing any recycling more than we are.
Mhm.
It's embarrassing.
Except that the events, I wouldn't try to recycle that. I mean, I just wouldn't, because nobody respects any hole that you have will have everything in it.
Well, sometimes,
No one respects
is
it.
it one stream here, recycling?
It's single stream.
So single stream doesn't require you to sort at the
No.
place of the event,
No, except at the event, there will be a trash here and a recycle
but they
here,
don't pay attention.
and nobody pays
That's part of
attention.
the
Well,
education.
That's
and
the
that's part of
problem.
the education,
But
but I don't think that should be the lowest common denominator that, I think, Carmen, I think she's bringing up a point of like, we should be aiming high. It's like, why, if we're gonna go fishing, why not try to catch both fish at the same time?
But why don't we have recycling for every household? I can tell you right now, because it's too expensive, because they're not making enough money off of it. But cities who do have recycling for everybody, whether they use it or not, most people use it.
Yep.
Most people use it, especially with single stream because it's so easy.
Right.
So it could be part of what the RFP would go out for, would be to include recycling for every house.
Would it become more cost effective for the hauler and the sorter if there's more volume? On a cost basis, is it more attractive to them?
How much capacity does the MRF have here? I'm not sure. I would have to ask Tyler. It's in South Hutchinson.
Hmm.
The recycling all is shipped there
I
from
used to go to
Seneca
the-
County, McPherson County.
Okay.
Reno County.
I do think that we're in agreement that this would be a good thing to work on.
Yeah.
To present before the city council, to put together a report that maybe will include information that a lot of them are aware of, but nonetheless, maybe it hasn't been put together in this way. And it's a way to, advise the city council that this is, a doable thing. Look at Derby, that sort of thing.
It's 16 out of 20 cities of the county.
Yeah.
15.
Yeah.
Already do it.
So do we need to make some assignments?
Well, I'll get a hold of Susan and see what she can tell me, what she can give me,
Okay.
what numbers she can give me. And we all can look at our areas with Giuseppe's idea and see how many haulers we do have, but I
Okay.
think I have all of them.
How many haulers, what days, and approximate what times they pick up? Because I can create that in an illustration that shows.
But that would mean walking up and down every block.
Well,
Every day.
What's your doorstep? We're,
What, you
what
put
do you-
down your block?
yeah, what do you say in your block?
Oh, okay, I have.
It's a
3
way to
haulers on the
paint a
block.
picture to give them like, what does this actually feel like to residents on the blocks that they live?
I'd be willing to put a survey out, a Google Doc that says, how many haulers do you know is on your street? Where do you live at?
That could be a really valuable way to just collect a whole bunch of
I
information.
agree.
And if they
I could
include
ground
where they
I
live,
could visualize.
Yeah.
if they include where they live, that would be.
Yeah,
a good
like
way.
where they live, like specific address, is that what you're thinking?
Yeah.
A lot of people won't want to do that.
Well, you could say just the block.
Ask them to do it anyway.
Block of the
Let's go by
intersection.
your district. I think that's a place to start.
Which, well, I already have that.
Even, I think even if they include, like, I live on
What
this
street
block
corner?
between these two streets, that alone is helpful because it gives a little bit more of a tangible, but we don't have to.
300 block of North Lorraine.
We don't have to overcomplicate it. I do think if we take the minutes from this, Ibrahim, and we can maybe like extract this part and build a bit of an outline and a framework to like, what are the talking points? What are the topics? What are the angles? Who are the reach outs to? And then we can start to assign, who's doing what. And I think the time frame, we have to plan like, when are the windows, right? To work with presenting in front of city council. That's one constraint. The other is how much time it takes to gather and create the content.
Yeah.
So are we targeting, is there someone here that can advise on windows that are coming up in August and September that we can start to kind of aspire towards?
Windows with.
Windows with city
Present.
council, to windows to present.
Available to the city council. I think we should just go,
3 weeks.
I think we should actually just go ahead and start looking at October.
I
Give
think-
ourselves plenty of time.
That's not much time when we're only gonna meet once between now and then.
We could. do-
October, we're gonna meet twice
Meet
between
twice.
now
Still,
and October.
That's not much.
Well, isn't that our last meeting of the year?
But you
Yeah.
could do it in
Yes,
November.
that's the meeting. No, October.
Yeah, I would say I'd like the idea of like give ourselves enough grace, but if we can have the window, if the window falls before the third Wednesday, it'd be nice to have a bit of a coming together and a debrief after the fact in our October meeting. So we can tactically think about what worked, what didn't, what are next steps, follow throughs, things like that.
Okay, well, the council meets every week. So we could do that at
So there's
most
plenty of
anytime,
windows.
not all anytime, but most of the time.
And then we could organize who can show up and be there present.
Mhm.
Mm,
Cause I think more of us that show up, the better.
before school starts.
Does that sound good?
Let's try it.
Okay,
Okay.
so next month, everybody at least bring the numbers back from your block, from your neighbor's block, from whoever's block you can find out about. Randy's gonna set
Yep.
that up,
I'll
that
set
survey
up.
for us up. Which block do you live in? Not
Okay.
your specific address. 300 block of whatever, or 2,800 block of something, something like that. And I will get a hold
You
of
see
Susan,
what
see
Susan
what I can
information
get,
has?
what information I can get from her. I will also look for some of it I've got online, which is old
Yeah,
now, but she's got some graphics that are really cool.
yeah.
So that you can see
We can
where trash
correspond.
goes and that kinds of thing too. So,
We
but
can make some iterative steps between now and the next meeting on some
Yeah,
of this. And
yeah,
if you're open to sharing your details of how to reach you, that'd be great.
Sure.
And we can create like a Google form by Kelly, so everyone can get in and fill this form. So hopefully by next meeting, we can have this information ready.
all right.
All right.
What you all need to know is August 5th, 9 AM, county commission meeting. There are 2 solar farms wanting to come in. They are going to vote on both of them on the same day.
And which building or where's
County commission meets at the Ruffin Building, 100 North Broadway.
Could you go ahead and adjourn the meeting, please?
Okay, thanks all for coming, and looking forward to meeting you next meeting. So I'm going
Yeah.
to adjourn the meeting. Yeah.
Thanks, Abraham.
Thank you.
you.